newspaper and things on the television all the time that provide either one-sided stories of the police going and doing a good job arresting all these people and doing all these, flying around in helicopters looking for little plants. All this stuff that they do, they get one-sided stories all the time. It's really frustrating to see the mainstream media continue to show just glimpses of the picture and not the whole thing. But luckily, we're not as controlled by mainstream media as a society as we once were. And as I started out here, the internet has really opened doors for us as individuals and as groups to share and present information. When I graduated from university in 1994, I hadn't sent an email. There was no internet. There were no means to find out what was happening on other campuses aside from literally going to that other campus, let alone other parts of the world. Every day the world is getting more connected, more aware, and is gaining, I believe, knowledge at a rate that we as a species have never done before. And when it comes to overthrowing prohibition, I'm of the absolute and firm belief that the more information that we have and that's made available to us, the more people will realize the folly of the drug war on one hand and the just immense benefits that can come from the full utilization of the cannabis plant. And so the internet is, I would classify it as a media tool that in some ways we're like children barely understanding what is in our hands. I'm really excited to see how it's developed so far to the point where, like today, we're live broadcasting on the internet. I'm not sure how many folks we got in there today. 9, okay. Well, they're probably all coming down from yesterday. But on Cannabis Culture's webpage, for example, yesterday they had 4,000 at one point. I think there were over 20,000 on a normal chat room.
30 something.
Yeah, there was a chat room yesterday with normal with over 30,000 people interacting together. That's new. We've never had that capacity before. We used to all sit and watch The Price is Right at 6:30 and suffer. Like now we have a way to communicate and to interact and to learn that was never available to us before. It's wonderful, and Hempology is going to open up its own chat room in probably around January or so that we can have an ongoing discussion amongst people both here in Victoria and in other communities about what's happening or what we're doing. It's really been wonderful to be building web pages, and our forums are another awesome opportunity for people to interact with the media, because we are increasingly more with our web pages and print taking on the role of being in the media, which is critical to get the message out. And so we're certainly not the only ones though. The industry is flourishing, and I realize cannabis culture isn't printing here in Canada anymore, but the United States is just going off. It's hard to keep up with it all. There's new magazines coming out all the time. This one here is a lot more devoted to hemp. What's up, James?
I'm just wondering, they had a big vote on the legalization of marijuana like yesterday or something. What was the result?
Yeah, they lost 56 to 44. That's why I say everybody's glued down today. We've had up to 40 online, but yeah, it was beaten for a number of different reasons. It's easy to speculate all the different forces at play. Apparently some little old lady last week spent a couple $1 million trying to get old folks to come out and vote no. And there was a very large contingency of dispensaries campaigning against it. I've heard some dispensaries bought t-shirts saying no to Prop 19 and were handing them out on street corners. There's a lot of people within the cannabis movement that didn't want to compromise in some of the ways that the law was written, and it was very unfortunate that it was beaten, and I think in large part because of dissent within our own community of people. But
Plus,
Yeah, there's a lot of,
5 other states had medical up yesterday too, that all got voted down also, so just sort of sends a trend.
yeah, pretty much every ballot initiative that was on in the United States yesterday lost. A number of attorney generals got voted in that had anti-medical marijuana platforms. The only ballots that passed that had cannabis as an issue were some local initiatives in California that were focused on taxing medical marijuana. So there's a real backlash, unfortunately, occurring against the successes that we've had down in the United States. So yesterday was probably 2 steps backwards, honestly. It wasn't just one. But we're going to keep moving ahead. I'm going to say it, and part of it is, you know, information getting spread out around this new magazine here, West Coast Cannabis, as well. I've seen several issues of it, and it's something that a lot of the magazines have been really focused on growing pot. These ones in particular actually are even helping promote information about the various dispensaries that are in California. There's so many hundreds of them. And so I guess I don't think I have an old copy here, but we've been at times trying to not only provide information by holding meetings and web pages, but we've had a newsletter. We've actually had 2. We used to have this old one called the Budweiser, and it was simply a 1-page front and back piece that didn't have a lot of great information on it. We put our cannabis carols and, you know, some information about events. But I guess 6 years ago, we decided that the Cannabis Buyers Club, no, it must have been more than that now, but yeah, well, it must have been 6 because we're at 26, there's 4 years, so 7 years ago. We really wanted to help inform our members and the public about the struggles we were going through. We were involved in, at the time, 4 court cases with the Buyers Club and my 2 trials for up here and the cookie giveaway. There were changes happening in law, and so we decided to publish what at first was a 4-page, you know, just 1 sheet photocopied and folded in half. And it proved to be very useful, not only for our own membership, but to inform the public about what was happening. And it grew up to, gee, was it 8 pages at the end there? I forget. But last year, cannabis culture, as I mentioned earlier, stopped printing, and it left a real gap in Canada, at the very least, in terms of information coming out, not only about medical marijuana and hemp, but in particular for me, Bill S-10. Bill S-10 is a set of mandatory minimums, 6 months for 6 plants, 18 months for making hash, 18 months for making cookies. There's more than just growing pot that these mandatory minimums are set up to affect. They put $9 billion aside to build prisons for people like me. It's a really scary set of laws, and there wasn't much information being put out to the public about it or how to fight it. And we had our newsletter, but it just didn't seem to be enough. And we have run across a friend, I should say run across, but found a very talented individual, Andrew Brown, who has come and turned our newsletter into a full-out newspaper. Andrew did the student newspaper at Vancouver Island University up Island, and we're really proud to have him come down here and take our newspaper to the next level. We now print 10,000 of these. We're sending this issue from Scotland to Australia and the United States, certainly across Canada. We now have a writer in Australia, we've got one in Scotland and one in the US. We're gradually expanding to all sorts of places. We have so many plans with our newspaper, we've barely gotten to work on them in some sense because we're so busy with other things, and there's so much to do. One of the plans that I'm really looking forward to is they're now coloring contests. Every front cover from now on will be a coloring contest. We want people to make it art, make it their own. They can send in the picture, we don't need to have the real copy.